Jesus has some harsh words for people who neglect the first and second greatest commandments. So, back in Matthew chapter 22, Jesus tells us that the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And then the second commandment is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And in chapter 23, Jesus launches into a scathing rebuke of the Pharisees and the religious leaders in Jerusalem. And he is ruthless, and he's addressing 7 things that they're doing wrong, and he's not taking it easy on them. All these things have to do with their failure to keep the first and second commandments of loving God and loving those around them. I want to pick out just a couple of these and talk about them because they apply also to our lives, and they warn us to not follow the example of the Pharisees. So let's look in verse 23 of Matthew 23. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites." Again, he is not taking it easy on them, right? "For you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others." So, pause there. He's talking about tithing here. Tithing is an Old Testament rule. That there were rules in the Old Testament of taking the best of what you had, 10% of what you had, and dedicating it to the Lord. And the Pharisees were really careful about things like this. They wanted to build themselves up and make themselves look better by keeping this extremely carefully. And so they even went above and beyond. They're tithing even like little spices. This is like them going to the grocery store and getting some cinnamon sugar and being like, "Oh, let me take 10% out of that, put that in the offering plate so that I'm good." Like, we need to make sure we're tithing. So they're being really careful about that. But there was a problem. They were careful about those things, but they neglected the more important things. They neglected things like justice. If you read the Old Testament, justice is all over the place. It's one of the most important things is that you be a society that is just, that punishes what is evil, that celebrates what is good. And they were neglecting justice. They were neglecting mercy. They were neglecting the people who were in need and desperately needed to be cared for. They were neglecting them. They were not being generous and giving to the people who didn't have the things that they needed. And faithfulness. Asking the question, are you people of your word? Are you keeping the commitments that you make? Jesus is saying, look, you haven't done these things. You're taking care of these things that don't really matter while you're messing up on the important things. In verse 24, he says, "You blind guides, straining out a gnat and swallowing a camel." He's like, y'all got a cup of water and you see a little gnat in there. "Oh, there's a gnat. That's gross. I'm going to take that out." And then you chug it, but you find out there was a whole camel in there. You swallowed a camel. That's gross. That's going to give you indigestion. Like, the gnat wouldn't have been a big deal if you had swallowed the gnat. No one cares. If you swallow a camel, that's a problem. So he's saying, look, the tithing mint and dill and cumin, that's great. Like, take the gnat out. But we're talking about justice and mercy and faithfulness, and you're failing at that. He goes on, verse 25, it says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and the plate, that the outside also may be clean." So the first one here, he was talking about very much the second greatest commandment, like, are you treating others well? Are you loving others as yourself? This one, he's going back to the first commandment. And again, the Pharisees are doing all sorts of stuff to follow rules, but on the inside, they don't love God. They love themselves. And he's using this analogy. It's like you drink a cup of milk and then you wash the outside of it and put it back in the cupboard. And it's like, next time you take that out, there's going to be nasty sour milk in there. What they're doing is they're cleaning the outside. They're doing these external rules, which is great and all. Like, you want to clean the outside of the cup, but on the inside, they don't love God. They're not following the most important commandment. No one cares if the outside is clean, if there's nasty sour milk on the inside of the cup. Jesus has strong words for these people because they're keeping all sorts of commandments. They're doing all sorts of stuff right. But they don't love the Lord their God with all their heart, soul, and mind. And they don't love other people as themselves. He has harsh words because those are the two commandments that everything else hangs on.